So the first one, storage, convenience, preservation. Of course, we are to choose one. So old manuscript can be moved more easily. By the way, try to mention, or you must solve the questions as written in the text. Maybe this part is sorry, I have marked. Okay, maybe this part is a correct answer. Okay, most of them are logical, but only 3 of them are included in the paragraph. You need to mark those 3. So the first one is, let's see, more people can see precious documents, old manuscripts can be moved more easily, material can be examined without being touched, fewer staff will be required in the libraries, borrowers need not go in the library building, and libraries will be able to move underground. This is a bit confusing. So which one of the 3, or which 3 of those 6 are correct? In my opinion, just from the idea, more people can see precious documents, maybe. Old manuscripts can be moved more easily. If they have mentioned something, of course, that's the 3rd paragraph, or the last one, okay? So that's the 4th, by the way. So if they have mentioned something about moving documents, right, this can be considered right. But until now, I'm just sticking here. And materials can be examined without being touched, perhaps. Fewer staff, they have not mentioned fewer staff in libraries at all. Borrowers need not go to the library building, maybe. And libraries will be able to move underground. Let's take a look again. Okay, I'm just going to clear this page now. And let's take a look at the text again. The clear benefits of going digital: preserve rare and fragile without denying access to those who wish to study them. The British holds the only medieval manuscript of the world. Only qualified scholars were allowed to see it. Only qualified scholars allowed to see it until Kevin of the University of Kentucky scanned the manuscript with 3 different light sources. Now here's something. They have not mentioned touching. We'll keep this in our mind. Tokyo's National Diet Library, or Diet Library, is similarly creating blueprints so that researchers can scrutinize them, without handling the originals. Handling the originals. By the way, scrutinize means to analyze closely. So scrutinize is analyze closely. So, of course, as always, scrutinize can be written with a Z here, just in case you are reading American text. Okay? Here the exam is British, so scrutinize with an S here. So, touching is a correct one. This one. So, material can be examined or scrutinized without being touched. Okay, scrutinize can also be examined. Anyway, the second benefit is convenience. Once books are converted to digital form, patrons can retrieve them in seconds rather than minutes. Several people can simultaneously read the same book or view the same picture, and clerks are spared the chore of reshelving. And libraries could conceivably use the internet to lend their virtual collections to those who are unable to visit in person. So here we're talking about libraries using or sending their digital copies of these books to people that cannot visit in person. So we're talking about moving to the library. So here we are. Libraries will, borrowers need not go to the library building. Here's the second answer. Let's take a look at the third one. Not the third section. Third one, here. Thank you. The third advantage of electronic copies is that they occupy millimeters of space, on a magnetic disk rather than meters. Expanding library buildings is increasingly costly. The University of California at Berkeley recently spent $46 million on an underground addition to house 50 million books, an average cost of $30 per volume. The price of disk storage, in contrast, has fallen to about $2 per 300-page publication and continues to drop. So this doesn't have much of answers here. Libraries will be able to move underground. No, that was a disadvantage of having physical copies. Maybe they're talking about fewer staff will be required in libraries. Okay, here they are sparing clerks or spared the shore of reshelving and so on. So can we move more easily, or sorry, here. More people can see precious documents is the more correct one, because actually he didn't mention reducing staff. Clerks are spared the chore of reshelving, all right? But they haven't mentioned anything about reducing staff, so the correct answer is A. More people can see precious documents because of this one. Several people can simultaneously read the same book or view the same picture. So here is our answer, A, C, and E. Let's go on to the next part. The reading passage on the following pages. Just a moment. The reading passage on the following pages has 8 paragraphs, A, B, C, D, E, H. E, F, G, H, sorry. I don't know the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Choose the most suitable heading for each paragraph from the list of headings below. Here. Write the appropriate numbers I to X, or 1 to 10, in the boxes 1 to 7 on the answer sheet. So you are not expected to write this entire sentence when you are solving the answer sheet. You just need to write the letter, let's say 1, 2, and 3, for example. So for 1, just write the numbers next to the letters. Next to the sentences, of course. So all right. So here are the numbers written in you just need to write the labels. Benefiting from an earlier model. Important operative conditions. Examining the public confusion. Where to go from here. How it's all linked up. Finding suitable location. Comparing wind speeds in Australian cities. Matching operational requirements with considerations of appearance. What makes Esperance different? Esperance is a very unique word, so you need to mark it. What is a wind farm? Okay, so we need to understand what every paragraph of these, just circle the paragraphs so that they are clear. A, B, C, here is D, E is here, F, G, and H. All right, so let's take a look at every paragraph and try to choose, not choose, but to make up a heading from our head to try and estimate what the paragraph generally talks about. You don't need to read the entire paragraph once again. Just try to read enough to help you find the main idea and the topic sentence. Supporting ideas are very long and not necessary. So, harvest time in Esperance, here's that word, is constant. As long as the wind blows, which is pretty much all the time, 9 identical synchronized wind turbines reap the benefits of the dependable winds that gust up around the southern coastline of Western Australia. These sleek, white robot-like wind turbines loom up on the horizon, forming parts of Australia's first commercial wind farm. They're not only functional machines that help provide electricity for this secluded coastal town, but increasingly there are also draw cards for curious tourists and scientists alike. So we can see an introduction to the wind farm in Esperance. Okay, description of the wind farm, maybe its location. So wind farm description. Maybe. B. Because of its isolation, here's a keyword, isolation. Esperance is not linked to Western powers, to Western powers grid, which supplies electricity from gas, coal, and oil-fired power stations to the widespread population of Western Australia. Before the wind turbines went in, Esperance's entire electricity needs were met by the diesel power station in town. So this means that we're talking about other power sources or its isolation, okay, or which, or shall we say again, because nothing, so isolation, maybe, just isolation. Alright, let's see what else we have. C, the 5.8 million 10-mile lagoon project is not Esperance's first wind farm. The success of a smaller experimental wind farm at a spot called Salmon Beach encouraged the state's power utility to take Esperance's wind seriously. So, earlier success. Maybe. The wind turbines at 10-mile lagoon work in conjunction. Okay. Or maybe other types or other turbines, maybe other, perhaps here, other wind farms. Anyway, so earlier success, other wind farms and so on. D, the wind farm is connected to the power station by a 33 kilovolt power line, and a radio link between the two allows operators to monitor and control each wind turbine. So we're talking about some sort of description or system description. Okay, we are describing the system of these wind turbines and how they work. The power produced by a wind turbine depends on the size and efficiency of the machine and, of course, on the energy in the wind. The energy in the wind available to wind turbines, so the wind turbines, is proportional to wind speed cubed. So we're talking about the relation, maybe, between wind speed, perhaps, wind speed and power. Of course, these descriptions are not necessarily correct, all right? But I'm getting a relative information, or shall we say, I'm just knowing where things are. So here as well, they say in order to achieve optimal wind speed, the right location is imperative. So we are also talking wind speed and power. All right, wind speed and power. Anyway, the most favorable wind sites are on gently sloping hills, away from obstructions like trees and buildings, and where the prevailing winds are not blocked. Computer modeling was used to select the best sites and so on. So the best sites. Best sites. Just that. Next, strict erosion controls have been implemented and access to the wind farm is limited to selected viewing areas. The wind turbine towers are painted white and devoid of corporate logos or signage. According to Mr. Rosser, there is something of a worldwide backlash against wind farms with regard to their visual impact. But because wind turbines before best in most exposed locations, they will always be visible. So they're talking about maybe a description of the wind farm and maybe some of the drawbacks. Drawbacks. I'm just going to label this here with G. Okay. Instead of drawbacks, we can also write limitations. Maybe not. Okay. So drawbacks. And H, in fact, the project has become something of a tourist attraction. So tourism. Now they will be talking about how many tourists are coming, or they are visiting from everywhere, maybe scientists who are visiting. H. Okay. So we have a rough idea of what the text is, and at the same time we didn't have to read the entire text. Reading all of it and understanding it at the same time is a very difficult work. So let's see. Benefiting from an earlier model. Very clear. It's very clear. It's right here. Earlier successes. So the first one is C. Next. Important operative conditions. We're talking about conditions now. What we need to make a wind farm work. Maybe best sites, or the power produced here, the relation between speed and power is conditions. The energy in the wind available to the wind turbines is proportional. Thus, the greater the wind speed, the greater the output of the turbine. In order to achieve optimum, the right location is imperative. You have to accept the nature of the beast. Mr. Rossett, Western something, as surface dwellers, our perceptions of wind speeds are bad. As you go higher, wind speed increases significantly. So, our answer here is important operative conditions, high wind speeds. So, our paragraph is E. Just a moment. Note, there are more headings than paragraphs, so you will not use all of them. You will not use all of them. You may use any heading more than once, so be very careful. Be very careful that some of these headings do not have anything in the paragraph matching them. And you may use, and of course, you may use more headings or any heading more than once. So more than one paragraph? No. Just you can choose the same heading for several numbers. Anyway, examining the public confusion. Just a moment. Okay, so examining first, let's take a look here at the next one. By the way, since the boxes 1 to 7 need the headings next to them, try to start the paragraphs in order. So A is 1. I'm just going to write them down here. 1 is A. Okay, 2 is B. 3 is C. 4 is D. I really wish I had 5 is E. 6 is F. 7 is D, G, and 8 is H. Okay, so I'm going to write the answers for these for every paragraph here. All right. So let's try to solve A first. Here's A. Harvest time in Esperance is constant as long as the wind blows. Okay. Then dependable, these sleek white robot-like wind turbines, aluminum front. Okay, let's just take a look here. What's the wind farm? What's a wind farm? What makes Esperance different? Matching operational and considerations of appearance, comparing wind speeds in Australian cities, finding a suitable location. By the way, you know this. Where to go from here, examining and important benefiting from an earlier model. Maybe what's a wind farm? Let's see. They're not only functional machines that help provide electricity, but increasingly they're also drop cards for curious tourists and scientists alike. So there are 9 identical synchronized wind turbines that reap the benefits of dependable wind that gust up. So the answer for this one, A, is actually X. By the way, let me just take a look at something. You will notice that there are only 7 questions because the first paragraph is almost always solved for you. So just going to check my sources here. Just a moment. Okay. So if you take a look here at the next slide, strange that I forgot to mention it here. The first slide, or the next one of the slides, have these questions themselves, but they will begin from B here. B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay? So, and the example given to you will write an X next to A. So the example has been solved for you. Anyway, of course, you may use headings more than once. Alright, you may use any heading more than once, but I don't think perhaps this will not be the case here. But let's see. Let's take a look at B now. Because of its isolation, Esperance is not linked to the Western Power's grid, which supplies electricity from gas, coal, and oil-fired power stations to the widespread population. Esperance's entire electricity will be met by a diesel power station in town. So they're talking about Esperance. What makes Esperance different? Or yes. So most of the time, or the answer is what makes Esperance different, IELTS. C, the 5.8 million 10-mile lagoon project is not Esperance's first wind farm. Earlier successes was the address of this, or was the heading of this text. So, benefiting from an earlier model, C. Okay, what about the next one, D? The wind farm is connected to the power station via something and a radio link. So there are keywords here. Connected, link, here, radio link between, and the 9 kilowatts Vista produces total capacity and provides certain. So they're talking about linkage and how it's all connected, which is how it's all linked up. The answer for D is 5. Next one. We're looking at paragraph E. The power produced by a wind turbine depends on the size and efficiency of the machine, and of course the energy on the wind. The energy in the wind available to the wind turbines is proportional, so we're talking about wind speed and power. In order to achieve optimum wind speed, the right locations is imperative. You have to accept the nature of the beast. As you go higher, wind speed increases significantly. So they're talking about the relation and the wind speed in general, matching operational requirements with considerations of appearance. They didn't mention appearance. Be very careful. Comparing wind speeds in Australian cities, finding a suitable location, important operative conditions, I would mention this one. All right? Be very careful. They didn't mention appearance at all. Okay? Let's get back here. And of course, on the energy in the wind, the energy is greater than wind in order to shape optimum. You have to accept the nature of the beast, the surface. They didn't mention appearance at all. Wind speed and appearance is incorrect. My camera has a bit of a slow internet connection here. Just a moment. Right. The most favorable wind sites, come on. Okay, let's just carry on. The most favorable wind sites are on gently sloping hills. If you remember Windows XP's wallpaper, it had a very gently sloping hill. That's what they're referring to. So away from obstructions like trees and buildings, and where the prevailing wind, so we're talking about the best locations here. Very, very quickly get back to the question and say finding a suitable location, it's 6. F is 6. By the way, never write except Roman numerals. So if you write here 6 like this, I'm not going to guarantee to you that it's correct. Okay, of course, it's relatively, or shall we say, theoretically, it should be correct, but please use the Roman numerals. G. Here, strict erosion controls have been implemented and access to the wind farm is limited to selecting viewing areas. White and devoid of corporate logos. According to Mr. Rosser, there is something of a worldwide backlash. A backlash is a negative reaction to something. Let's say, for example, that a politician says something that is controversial or that angers or made many people angry. When the people are angry, they start, or a backlash happens. They don't start it, but a backlash happens. And this means that their reaction to what he said is violent. So there is a worldwide backlash against wind farms with regard to their visual impact. Earlier on, you were used to looking at a very large hill, beautiful landscape and all that, and then suddenly wind farms. So backlash against wind farms with regard to their visual impact, but because wind turbines perform best in most exposed positions, they will always be visible, always be visible. There's very real need to balance the environmental and technical requirements. I think the 10-mile lagoon farm sets the standard for environmentally friendly development. So we're talking about balance, matching operational requirements with considerations of appearance is the answer. 7. Let's take a look here, examining the public confusion. No, there's no public confusion. They're opposed to the wind farms. Comparing wind speeds in Australia? No, okay. And finally, H. In fact, the project has become something of a tourist attraction. I've never read tourist attractions in the questions, so this might be a bit difficult in itself. Esperance Shire President Ian Mitchell said the wind turbines had been well accepted by locals. We have watched the wind farm develop with great interest, and now we find visitors to Esperance are equally enthusiastic about it, he said. The aim now is to identify other remote locations where wind turbines will be a feasible means of supplementing existing power stations. So they're saying it helps tourism, and we're looking for other good locations. Maybe it's finding a suitable location. Again, let's take a look, examining where to go from here. They didn't mention anything about the future of the wind farms. They didn't say anything about Australian cities and wind comparisons, but they mentioned something about finding suitable locations. So again, VI is the answer for H, And don't be confused here because there are two VR answers. Here you may use any heading more than once. Alright, so let's skip those and then take a look at this one. What is the writer doing in this article? Now we're trying to find the common theme of all of this article. It's a very large one and he talks a lot about many things, but he's trying to go for a specific point, to support a specific point with all of these paragraphs. The first one is responding to the criticism of a project. Let me just move this out of the way. Here. Is he responding to criticisms? Maybe. Is he reviewing the success of a certain project, which is the, what's the name of the wind farm here? Esperance. Is he explaining his role in a project? No, he has never talked about himself, so we can cross C out now. And predicting the future of a project? No, he's not predicting, or shall I say, predicting the future of a project. It's a very small point at the end, so it's not very feasible. Criticism is a very small point as well, but he's talking about the general success of the project from the point of view of the future and the criticism and other considerations. So the correct answer here is B.